Without any warning, I received news that my mother-in-law had passed away. When I naturally tried to attend the funeral, my husband yelled at me. "Don't you dare come. You got it?" "What are you talking about? She's passed away. What kind of daughter-in-law wouldn't go to the funeral? My mom hated you. Don't even think about showing up. You'll be a nuisance." Though my relationship with mother-in-law was never close, the woman was gone. Not attending the funeral as a daughter-in-law would be beyond disrespectful. Ignoring my husband's words, I headed to the funeral hall, which was a bit far away. When I got there, I saw my husband leading the mourning rites. Wait, what's going on here? Whose funeral is this? What followed was a shocking truth that was hard to believe. My name is Sophia. I'm 30 years old. I've been married for 3 years and live with my husband, William. Things were great back then, but not anymore. I won't sugarcoat it. I'm not satisfied with my married life. The main problem lies with my husband. I became a housewife when we got married. That's because when he proposed, he asked me to quit my job and stay home. Since I was just an office worker with no particular passion for my job, I complied and quit. But that was a mistake. For the first year of marriage, everything was relatively fine. Things took a turn for the worse in our second year. I used to receive $1,000 a month for living expenses from my husband, but suddenly it was cut to $500. Look, William, making ends meet with just $500 is impossible. Why? I'm covering the rent. All you have to worry about is utilities and groceries, right? Even for basic household items, $500 isn't enough, especially when you factor in utilities and food. You're the one who's supposed to make it work, aren't you? You're living on my income. Figure it out. In the end, he wouldn't compromise, so I had no choice but to make do with $500. No matter how hard I tried, it was just not enough. My husband eats more than the average person, making it even harder. After a year of living off my savings, I watched the balance steadily decline since there was no income. Every time I checked the balance, the number kept getting smaller and smaller. Seeing this filled me with a bottomless sense of dread. What will happen to me when this account hits zero? $500 is just not enough, no matter how hard I try. William shows no signs of increasing the household budget. What am I to do? That's when I decided it was time to go back to work. Even if I can only work part-time, I should be able to make between $800 to $900 a month. That extra income would certainly make life easier. That night, when I approached my husband with the idea, he visibly recoiled. Work? You can't be serious. No way. Why not? This would give us more breathing room. If life is tough, it's because you're bad at budgeting. It's your fault. I've done all I can. Life is still hard. That's why I've been considering other options. Playing the victim, huh? You can live because of me. How dare you even say that? His dismissive tone fueled my growing rage. Before I knew it, I was letting him have it, louder than I'd ever imagined. Enough is enough! You're the one who wanted me to be a housewife. Since when does yelling solve anything? I just want you to understand. How can anyone make ends meet with just $500? Shut up! Stop blaming others! Think of something else, you loser! He spewed these words, shoved me aside, and stormed out of the living room. I fell to the floor, tears flowing uncontrollably. Why is this happening? All I wanted was a peaceful married life. I always felt the need to talk to someone about my worries, but my parents live far away and it's not easy to visit them. I couldn't keep silent anymore, so I initiated a discussion. On the other hand, my in-laws live only an hour away by car. However, my husband doesn't seem to get along with them, so we've had no contact since we got married. So, talking to my in-laws is pretty much out of the question. After getting married, I moved closer to my husband's workplace, making it difficult and expensive to meet up with my former coworkers. As for my friends back home, well, I can only imagine what they'd say if I tried to meet up. So here I was, living in fear of my own husband. But then things started to change. Recently, my husband has been spending less time at home. He started working late and going on business trips more often, which meant he was rarely home for dinner. If he's not eating at home, there's no need to stock up on a lot of groceries. This means I don't have to buy groceries in bulk, which helps me get by on the $500 he gives me each month. Also, I've started working from home and now make about $700 a month. I've started enjoying a more independent lifestyle, especially when he's not around. And it's been going on for about a year now. Recently, my husband has been too busy with work to come home much. But when he does, he treats me terribly and shouts insults. Lately, he hasn't even been giving me any money for living expenses. Then one day, something unexpected happened. When my husband came home from work, he seemed really rattled. Without missing a beat, he blurted out, "My mom is dead." "Wait, what? Are you joking?" I turned back to him and he yelled, "Why would I lie about something like this?" "But your mom was still young." "I'll go to the funeral the day after tomorrow, alone. You stay here." Caught off guard by his unexpected words, I couldn't help but blurt out, "What? What do you mean? Why would you go alone to your mother's funeral?" "She's my mom, so I should be the one to go. You don't need to come." "Wait a minute. That's ridiculous. She's my mother-in-law too, you know?" "That doesn't matter. I'm enough for my mom's funeral." "Are you serious?" I couldn't comprehend his rationale and my frustration was growing. Confused and puzzled, his impatience was obvious. "Just don't come to the funeral. Got it?" "What are you talking about? What kind of daughter-in-law doesn't attend her mother-in-law's funeral?" "Ugh, enough. Mom hated you, okay? Just don't show up at the funeral." "What? My mother-in-law hated me?" "Yes, exactly. So even if you did come to the funeral, my deceased mom wouldn't be happy." I can't believe this. My chest hurt sharply as the brutal truth was abruptly laid before me. Seeing me like this, my husband sighed in annoyance. "Enough already. If Mom hated you, Dad feels the same. Your presence would just make everyone uncomfortable." "Fine, I get it. Just stop." "You better, all right? Don't come to the funeral." Pressured by my husband, all I could do was nod. 2 days later, early in the morning, my husband busily got ready and quickly put on his morning clothes. When he went to the bathroom, I picked up his discarded pajamas. That's when I noticed his phone left open on the table. Looks like he was checking out the venue for today. The driving directions are up on the screen. It's about a 40-minute drive from home. Something felt off. Wait, something's not right. That direction isn't toward William's family home. It would take at least an hour and a half to get there from his parents' house. Wouldn't they usually choose a closer location? Why go somewhere so far away? Caught up in these thoughts, my husband returned from setting his hair. I quickly left the scene, pajamas in hand, making sure he didn't notice I'd seen his phone. He said, "I'm leaving," and walked out the door. Still uneasy, I decided to attend my mother-in-law's funeral in mourning clothes. When I arrived, I couldn't believe my eyes. Unfamiliar faces filled the family and staff seats. And there was my husband, giving a speech as the chief mourner. "Thank you all for gathering here today in honor of my wife." What is this? My wife, Riley, was... William was shedding tears, pretending to be a grieving husband. Normally, I'd confront him right away, but I couldn't break the solemn atmosphere. Just then, I overheard the conversation of some women sitting behind me. "Did you hear? The chief mourner is divorced." "Really? He seems so steady." "Yeah, his previous wife was a handful, you know. Apparently, she left him with a huge debt." "A debt? Ugh, that's troublesome." Finally, she left the divorce papers and left. He met his current wife soon after. Even knowing she was sick and wouldn't live long, they got married because they were in love. So it's a love story. Huh. Debt? Leaving? I had never done any such thing. Anger boiled inside me as I realized the story had been twisted. I had to ask him again to make sure. Upon checking, I found that our divorce had been finalized. The date was about 6 months ago. My husband probably met his now sick wife soon after and married her. The reason he hardly came home was that he was living a newlywed life with her. Connecting the dots, my anger reached its peak. He had me removed from the family register and married another woman behind my back? Enough with the insults already, will you? This is it. I've had enough. Time for a reckoning. With revenge in mind, I hailed a taxi and headed straight for my mother-in-law's place, where I suspected she'd be. I told the driver the way as best as I could remember, and somehow we made it. I rang the doorbell, and with a cheerful, "Hello," my lively mother-in-law appeared. Her eyes widened as soon as she saw me. "Oh, my, Sophia, is that you?" "Long time no see, mother-in-law. You look well." "You look good too, Sophia. What brings you here?" "I came unannounced, but there's something urgent I have to talk to you about." "Something you have to tell me?" "Yes, actually." I told my mother-in-law everything that had happened. How I'd been mistreated by my husband, how I wasn't getting enough for living expenses, and even the fact that he had already divorced me. As I spoke, tears welled up and I began to sob. My mother-in-law gently rubbed my back to comfort me. "Sophia, I'm so sorry you've had to go through all this. My idiot son. Please, forgive me." "It's okay. I should apologize for showing up and talking about this." "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" "William told me you didn't like me." "What? He told me you didn't like me? Wait, what?" That's when it finally hit me. My mother-in-law and I had been deliberately kept apart. My husband probably thought it would be troublesome if she and I got along, especially if something went against his plans. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to me, he'd apparently asked his family for financial help multiple times, and he'd blamed it all on me. "Sophia's sick and needs money. Sophia can't work, so things are tight. Please help, for Sophia's sake," and so on. I was neither sick nor unable to work. It was just what William had told me to do. Now that I had the truth, I had nothing to fear. I told my mother-in-law about my plan for revenge and returned to the funeral. Though it had already ended, a few people were still around. I approached one of them. "Excuse me, do you know where the deceased's family lives? I couldn't make it to the funeral, and I want to bring some flowers later." Pretending to be an acquaintance, I managed to get the address of my husband's mistress's family home. The next day, I took some funeral flowers and headed to their place. When I rang the doorbell, a woman who looked quite worn, probably from the grief of losing her daughter, answered the door. It was likely the mistress's mother. I introduced myself as a friend. I was invited inside. Once led to the room with the family altar, I saw my husband there.
Sophia? What are you doing here?"
Upon saying my name, my husband quickly covered his mouth. The father of the mistress asked,
"William, what's going on?"
That's when I let it all out. "I'm sorry for lying. I am this man's ex-wife."
"Ex-wife? Why would you be here?"
"Your daughter and I were both deceived by this man. I found out just yesterday at Riley's funeral that I was divorced."
"What? What does that mean?"
He told me it was my mother-in-law's funeral and told me not to come. I suspected something was off, so I followed him, only to find out it was the funeral of his new wife.
"What's the meaning of this? William, explain yourself."
At the sound of Riley's father's furious voice, William's face turned pale as he looked down. The atmosphere, once laden with sorrow, completely shifted, as if sensing his wrongdoings. Riley's father's face turned beet red as his body trembled. Amidst all this, I commenced my final act of revenge. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, and Riley's mother headed for the front door. When she returned, she was accompanied by my mother-in-law. "Mom!" Sweat erupted from William's forehead. He was visibly shaken. My mother-in-law proceeded to give him a piece of her mind. "Causing trouble for others. What do you think you're doing? Pay back the money you borrowed from us right now, and don't you dare blame Sophia."
"Wait, Mom, this is not the time to..."
"You owe an apology to Sophia, that woman, and even your parents, right here, right now. Do you even understand what you've done? Declaring me dead and removing Sophia from the family registry. That's the height of disrespect.
Mom, can we talk about this later? This isn't the place to...
That's exactly why it's the right place. It would be unfair to the other woman and your parents if I didn't. I'm here to make sure everyone knows what a loser you are. Riley's father grabbed William by the collar and shouted, "You've got to be kidding." Seemingly terrified, William started to cry on the spot. Turns out, William had lied to Riley's father about needing money for Riley and had borrowed from him. Upon questioning, it was revealed that William had gambled away all the money. In the end, William was kicked out of Riley's house and faced legal actions. Ignoring his tearful face, I turned my back with my mother-in-law and started to walk away. At that moment, a desperate voice called out from behind.
Wait!
I turned around slowly. What?
Sophia, I'm really sorry. Can we start over?
Excuse me?
If you don't help, I'll be sued.
Don't worry. I plan on suing you too.
What?
Yes, I had already made up my mind. After all the unjust treatment and being served with fake divorce papers, I'll sue him through a lawyer.
Please, forgive me.
Fuming, I unleashed my feelings on my husband. Do you think saying sorry will make everything okay? Do you even understand what you've done? Filing for divorce without telling me is a legal issue, you know? Your apologies are worthless because you've been lying and asking for financial support. Utterly worthless.
Sophia, wait, please.
Quiet. Do you have any idea how many people you've hurt with your actions? What you've done isn't easily forgivable. Even a lifetime of making amends won't be enough. So from now on, stay out of my life. If you show up again, I won't hesitate to ruin you. My mother-in-law's hand touched my back as I spoke assertively. Her warmth almost brought me to tears. Afterwards, William ended up paying back the $10,000 he borrowed from Riley's father in one lump sum. Additionally, he had to pay me alimony and a fine for forgery. His salary was never that high to begin with. The financial hit seemed to hurt him quite a bit. He had to go into debt to pay the alimony, and now he's even getting collection calls at work. It's only a matter of time before he loses his job. As for me, I went back to my old job right after the divorce. Now I'm living in an apartment near my workplace and enjoying peaceful days. Since then, I've been meeting with my mother-in-law regularly and updating each other on our lives. I feel our relationship has deepened even more after the divorce. My mother-in-law, who stood by me as we took our stand against her own son. I plan to cherish her as a second mother from here on out.